Hey guys, welcome back to MMA Library. Today in MMA and UFC news, Derrick Lewis blasts Daniel Cormier in a recent interview. Cormier recently said he doesn't believe Derrick Lewis can compete at the very top of the heavyweight division any longer. Here's what Lewis had to say in response to DC's comments.
You said in an interview that you feel like people aren't taking you serious.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on that?
I guess because they feel like my work ethic wasn't there. That they felt like that I wasn't taking myself serious or the fight game serious or whatever. And so I don't blame them, but I got to go out there and prove, I guess I got to go out there and prove everyone that I can still do this. I can still be in the top 5. I don't give a damn what DC says. I seen that. But I guess you got to say that whenever you got high cholesterol. But yeah, I feel like that I could still be in the top 5.
Michael Chandler believes he's bigger than Conor McGregor, even though there's a chance McGregor's using PEDs. Here's the clip.
Fitness app that I've created that I'm coming out with new programs. So I'm constantly over here filming stuff and training, and I'm always in the gym. So I'm not getting fluffy or fat, and I'm always around that 185 to 190 clip. So, 170 for me would be a dream come true. I don't like making 155. The only reason I can make 155 is just good old-fashioned 12 weeks of diet, exercise, discipline, and a little bit of dehydration at the end. So why not do 170? I think Conor and I still think I'm bigger than Conor at this point, even with his regimen that he's been on.
Sean O'Malley runs into Aljamain Sterling and Dvalishvili at the UFC's PI.
So this was... Look at us, what a good people here at UFC PI.
What do you weigh?
Well, it's okay, brother.
You don't look like you're
67 and a half.
67? What about you, Rob? What do you weigh?
I just got off the plane. 155.
55?
Yeah,
I'm
I don't know how you guys stay so skinny. I eat one and I'm 170.
Yeah. Featherweight body. What's up, Nicky?
You're skinny, you're strong. They love people.
Alexander Volkanovski is enjoying being the underdog ahead of his fight against Islam Makhachev. Here's what Volk had to say on the MMA Hour.
We want this for legacy. I never used to talk like this. You'll remember, I never talked about legacy fights and all this type of stuff, but now I'm all about it. Now I'm all for the big fights. I'm all for the. I love the underdog story. I love that. People are again being the underdog and people saying I'm undersized and all that type of stuff. That just adds to the story, and it's going to add to the victory. When you talk about legacy, winning a belt, the champ and all that type of stuff. Yeah, that's cool, but beating guys like Islam while doing that is that's different. Not many people can really say they moved up and won a title off a opponent like Islam. You know what I mean? But again, the way people are talking, it's funny. People, as they say, people quickly forget. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'll forget again when I get my hand raised. I'll be like, oh yeah. And then again, as I've been saying, I've said this a few times. I don't know if I've already said it to you, but there's a narrative right now that some people, obviously, there's a lot of people rooting for me, know I can get the job done because they've seen what I do and they know what I'm capable of. So they're ready to back me. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to doubt me, which I love. And all that type of stuff, the undersized, too good to go at the Dagestani wrestling and all this type of stuff. That's good. But just remember that. Don't change the narrative when I get my hand raised. You know what I mean? That's something that I need people to understand.
Sean O'Malley and his coach Tim Welch discuss how severe Aljamain Sterling's injury is on a recent episode of their podcast. Here's a clip.
Yeah, well, and bro, if you have a partially torn bicep, you doing like this, it you up. And Aljo was in the cage holding Thai pads for Merab. And Thai pads are the worst. Someone kicks you powerfully. Boom,
recently?
Jams your bicep tendons and everything. And he's holding pads. So I'm like, it cannot be that bad if you're holding Thai pads.
I wonder if he's using that to just kind of let just be able to chill. I'm injured. So everyone's like, well, you can't expect him to fight then.
And it could be a tiny tear, yeah.
So hopefully get some juice, get some news here soon about that.
Daniel Cormier believes Alex Pereira was given fights which benefited his style during his run-up to face off against Israel Adesanya.
The reason he is the champion now is because people wanted to see that fight in particular, and now when seeing that fight, he was able to beat Israel Adesanya and become the middleweight champion.
RC, and that's honestly, that's the truth. But that thought right there, honestly, is why and what motivates Pereira, right? What motivates Pereira and makes him think at that level is because the vast majority sees it as that. And you're right. I don't think for 1 second that he could have won 3 fights in the UFC and fought anyone else but Israel Adesanya. You are absolutely right. But that serves as motivation for that man, because even though that man is one of the greatest kickboxers of all time, his name was built because Izzy became the UFC champion. He had beaten Izzy twice. He's the UFC champion now because people believe he was given matchups that favored him to get him to Adesanya. So it's like it serves as motivation for this guy.
Ariel Helwani and Joe Rogan had a little back and forth recently. On an episode of Rogan's podcast, he said Ariel tries to get people to say things. This was in regards to Sean Brady's interview following his loss to Bilal Muhammad. Ariel fired back saying, "What is this all about? First of all, I didn't get Sean Brady to say that. Sean Brady offered that up on his own. How could I have gotten him to say that, and what does that even mean in general? It's especially rich coming from the guy who is pushing false narratives and false information and fake information with all kinds of nonsense over the past few years, to the point where people were demanding he get dropped from Spotify, which I never agreed with. But that's rich. Of course we know what the history is with Joe. He's Dana's boy. He's always going to have his back. But what are we talking about? Ariel Helwani likes to get people to say things. I ask questions, people answer them, I move on. This is very tired, honestly. And again, I didn't see this, so I'm going by what is being said to me here. And we know that Bilal isn't exactly the biggest fan of mine, so I don't know what the whole context was and all that nonsense. It's amazing to me that a guy who sits in his chair with his headset and this microphone thinks that I am getting people to say things. What are you talking about? At least I ask people questions about, topics that I'm somewhat well versed in, as opposed to someone who sits in front of his guests and pretends to know more about a topic when they're talking to an expert and pretends to be interested in the topic.
Colby and I, we started off as enemies. Like, I remember he would write to me like that I was some loser who lived in his mom's basement playing magic cards. And I was like, I like this guy. That's a great insult. And so I had him on, and then we were cool. And then during the ESPN years, we were very cool. And I actually had to fight on his behalf when they didn't want him on or wearing certain things, blah, 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 blah. And we were still cool. And then it was after the Woodley fight where I said, I thought the talk was just a little too much, a little too, just a little too weird-ish. And then he cut me off after that. Has never responded to a text, never, wants nothing to do with me, thinks that I stabbed him in the back. I mean, I'm doing my show, man. I'm giving my opinion. It was the show with DC. And so it's non-existent. And so how long ago was that? That was 2020, I believe. So it's been 2.5 years.
Guys, thanks so much for checking out the video. If you like the content we do here on this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to MMA Library for all the latest MMA and UFC news. We'll see you in the next video.